வாடே தேவன் சுந்தரேச சித்தம் கமருமையர் புவன சுந்தரி தேவி நீயே துணி செம்மதுரை வாழ் மீனலோச்சனி தேவி மலையத்வஜன் மாதவமே காஞ்சன மாலை புதல்வி மகாராணி மலையத்வஜன் மாதவமே காஞ்சன மாலை புதல்வி மகாராணி அரைமகள் கலைமகள் அணியே வாணியே அரைமகள் கலைமகள் அணியே வாணியே அமுதன் மனையினிய முத்தமிழ் வளர்த்ததேவியே நீயே துணி செம்மதுரையில் வாழ் மீனலோச்சனி
Now I invite our respected chief guest, Dr. Xavier Fernando, sir, to lead the Kutulaka.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Next, I invite our respected guest of honor, Dr. Thamari Selvi Somasundaram, ma'am, to lead the Kutulaka, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, like
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I invite our respected principal, Dr. R.S. Kumar, sir, to lead the Kutulaka, sir.
Yeah.
Next, I invite our beloved
Thank
HOD,
you.
ma'am, Dr. Anandi, to lead the Kutulaka, ma'am.
Sir, not at Lighton, I think. Control.
Now I invite our respected principal, sir, to lead the Kutulaka, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Next,
Oh,
I invite.
yeah, you can help me. You can help me. Yeah, got
Yes.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Next, I invite our beloved HOD, ma'am, Dr. Anandi, to lead the Kutulaka, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for lighting the Kutulaka, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I now
Oh.
I welcome my beloved HOD, Dr. Anandi ma'am, to deliver the welcome address.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Monish?
Yeah.
Good evening to one and all present here. I'm Dr. Ananthi, Head of Department of Information Technology. On behalf of Department of Information Technology, it's my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to you all. Your presence makes us very happy. On the outset, I thank our management for providing opportunity to conduct the virtual international conference and Information, Communication and Networking ICICN 2020. We started the first version of this conference ICICN in the year 2010 as national level, and every year we are conducting and now it evolved as international one. Today's chief guest is Dr. Xavier Fernando, Professor and Director, Ryerson Communication Lab, Canada. Sir, thank you so much for sparing your valuable time with us. With thankful heart, I welcome you for the inaugural function of our conference. Our guest of honor, Dr. Thamarai Selvi Somasundaram, Vice Chancellor, Thiruvalluvar University, Vellore. Ma'am, I have attended the FDPs organized by you, and I am always inspired by your speech and commitment. Not only me, you are familiar to all of our faculty, and you are great inspiration to all of us. It's our privilege to have you as our guest of the day. With immense pleasure, we welcome you, ma'am. We are conducting a lot of events with energetic and enthusiastic. The secret of our enthusiasm is always our principle. He supports and encourages us abundantly. Thank you, sir, for your constant motivation, and with a great pleasure, I welcome you, sir. Our IQAC ma'am, our Dean Placement and Deans of Academic Research and Alumni, VP Academic and VP Admin, who always supports us in all our activities. I'm very much glad to welcome you all. While conducting any event, all head of the departments for always encouraging me with a happy heart. With a great happiness, we welcome all our HODs for this event. And the co-convener, Dr. Kanaka Subbaraja. He has tirelessly worked for this conference. With his commitment, dedication, and involvement only, this event turned as a successful one. Thank you, sir, and welcome you for the conference. I'm happy to welcome our coordinator, Dr. Balaji. Here, I wish to mention my faculty who are always the backbone of success of any event. My heartfelt thanks, and with a great pleasure, I welcome all my faculty. My dear students, you are always the great support for us. I welcome you all for the conference with a happy heart. Last but the most, dear participants, we welcome you all for the conference. And we hope this conference would serve as forum to promote the exchange of ideas and advancements in information, communication, and networking technology in research and development perspective. Once again, I welcome you all for the inaugural function. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I welcome Dr. Kanaka Subbaraja to give an overview of this conference.
A very good evening to our respected chief guest and respected guest of honor, our principal, all deans and all HODs, IQAC coordinator, all faculty members and participants. First, I welcome you all for the International Conference on Information, Communication and Networking, IEIC in 2020. It's an honor and privilege to have two eminent personalities, Dr. Xavier Fernando, Director, Ryerson Communication Lab, Canada, and Dr. Thamarai Selvi Somasundaram, Vice Chancellor, Thiruvalluvar University, Vellore, who have accepted our invitation and joined us for this inauguration today. Tomorrow, another distinguished professor, Dr. Pa An Zung, Professor, National Sungchang University, Taiwan, will be delivering the keynote talk. With all the blessings, we begin the conference today. So far, our department has conducted many national and international conferences. This is the first time in our college we are conducting conference in online mode because of the current pandemic situation. And we started call for papers in the month of June. Within very short time of time, we received 161 papers, and out of this, we accepted 129 papers to be presented in the conference. We have grouped the papers in various streams like machine learning, Internet of Things, and image processing. We have invited professors from reputed colleges as session chair for each session. The extended version of all the presented papers will be sent to Scopus Index journals for publication. Finally, I wish all the best to the participants. I am sure this conference will be a good opportunity to present your ideas and learn new things from other researchers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I request our principal, Dr. R.S. Kumar, to present the presidential address.
Yeah. Good evening for us in India and for our guest, Dr. Xavier Fernando, and people from the United States, Canada. It's early morning. Thank you so much, sir, for taking your time off and being with us during a morning time. And my special thanks is to our VC, Madam. Thank you so much for being here. And with your best wishes, we will make this conference a very big success. I wish to congratulate Team IT, headed and directed in a very nice manner, Dr. Anandi, and the entire team, Department of Information Technology, particularly Dr. Kanaga Subbaraja, and so many other members who have made this as a very nice function. It's an opportunity. Many people have told this many times. Pandemic COVID-19 has thrown up this opportunity. Otherwise, we would not have thought of having an online conference. So now we have an online conference, and adding to that, like Dr. Kanaga Subbaraja says, paper presented on the merit of it will also be featured in the Scopus Indexed Journal. That is a very big plus point for all the budding research faculty members who wish to have more publications in their resume. I am seeing a lot of participants today. I am seeing so many faculty members, my entire team of heads of the various departments, my VPs. It's such a great honor to have an online international conference, and my best wishes to the Department of IT and their team to make this a great success. Thank you for calling me over. Thank you so much. Have a nice time. My best wishes for a roaring success, and my best wishes to all the journal paper publishing faculty members, researchers, so that they can achieve more and more. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. I now call Mrs. Jnana Priya to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Xavier Fernando.
Jnanapriya ma'am, you are muted, ma'am. Kindly unmute. On behalf of Department of Information Technology, I am glad to introduce the chief guest, Professor Xavier Fernando, Ryerson University, Toronto, Canada, for the inaugural function of International E-Conference on Information, Communication and Networking. Professor is currently working as Director, Ryerson Communication Lab. He had received total research funding of $3,185,000 Canadian dollar. He holds patents and authored over 200 research articles, 3 books and several book chapters. He was the chair of IEEE Canada and delivered over 50 invited talks and keynote presentations all over the world. He had also won over 30 honors and prizes. We welcome you, sir. Now, I request our chief guest, Professor Xavier Fernando, to deliver the inaugural address.
Thank you, madam, for the kind, actually introduction. It's all God's blessings. Can I share my PowerPoint?
Sir,
Sure, sir.
Okay.
You can.
Okay, do you see the title slide now?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, sir. You can say it.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I am Xavier Fernando, and it's a honor and privilege to actually give a talk at this Information and Communication and Networking Conference. And first of all, thank you for the organizers to inviting me for this event. I understand that this is the 8th time at the Eastwari Engineering College is organizing such a conference, and you have accepted about 120 papers out of 160. So this is almost 75% acceptance rate, which is pretty good, even comparable to many international conferences. So congratulations to all the organizers. So let me give a brief talk on the topic of the conference, Information and Communication and Networking. Okay, so actually I don't have to go through this slide because already the introduction was given about me, but I just show the links here. So if you want to know more about my lab, you can follow the Facebook page, or you can follow the LinkedIn group, actually, where all my past students are part of the LinkedIn group. So you can follow these links if you want to know more about my lab and my research. Okay, so actually here I try to put a Venn diagram. Basically, if you look information, communications and networking, these are the three pillars of having a cyber physical world. Because the information technology is the first thing actually it paved way to all the remarkable things happening us today around us. So we have data sciences, we have lots of data processing algorithms, and recently we are talking about machine learning, where the machines will learn certain fundamental rules and they will make their own decision, actually giving a system of artificial intelligence. And then when you have data and information, you also need to actually communicate the data. So we actually have several different means of communicating: wireless, optical, and optical wireless, and emerging visible light communication and things like that. And then we have to establish networks, like we know the 5G wireless network is coming big time. So 5G is actually promising to give us a lot of advantages. Also, there are other types of networks such as smart grids and smart cities that also rely on various communication technologies. And of course, not to ignore the importance of social networking. For example, here I am sitting here in Toronto, and you all are sitting in Chennai and various other parts, and we are able to actually connect with each other and share these ideas because of a wonderful networking technology. So I know the information technology is basically started with everything. So information technology has so many algorithms, so many data processing things, and recently we are talking more and more about machine learning. So machine learning is basically, until now we have been telling machines what to do, when to turn on and when to turn off. So machine learning is basically the machines themselves learn certain underlying rules so that they can make some decisions. So the machine learning can actually be supervised. So in that case, we actually give some training data to machines to learn stuff, or it could be unsupervised. The machines learn themselves by actually making mistakes and then learning from their mistakes. And then an advanced version of machine learning is basically actually artificial intelligence systems. In an artificial intelligence system, the ultimate way to actually make complex decisions based on many interconnected observations and rules will make an artificial intelligence system. For example, we are, as humans, we make so many interconnected things when you make decisions, right? So, for example, when you communicate with each other, not only we actually interpret the words, we also look at the facial expression of the person who we are talking to, their body language, their eye reaction, lots of things in order to make our decisions. So all these things comes because humans are wonderful, intelligent creatures, and we make so many observations, and we can easily understand underlying relationships. So artificial intelligence systems supposed to mimic whatever we as humans are very good in doing. And scientists have made significant progress in this direction, and I'm sure there will be more progress soon. And of course, communication. You might have heard about this. Communication is basically we should be able to connect anywhere, anytime, using any device. Say, for example, it could be human to human, it could be machine to machine, machine to human, etc. Also, we should be able to get connected anytime, when we are moving, when we are in the vehicles, when we are walking, or when we are actually out of the city in remote areas, daytime, nighttime, all these things. So our wonderful communication networks and communication technologies provide means for us to actually make most of these connections. And I suddenly jump to the Internet of Things, or IoT. Basically what happens when you have lots of information and we have communication technology, IoT is the wonderful new stage or new phase of evolvement of cyber-physical worlds, where we actually have lots of devices, lots of nodes that connect to each other and perform tasks, right? So basically, if you look at this graph, we had about 7 to 10 billion objects were connected to the internet in 2013, and now we have about 26 to 30 billion objects connected to the internet. And this is almost like 4 times more than the world population. So we have much more devices connected to the internet performing various tasks compared to humans. And these IoT devices, when they are connected, they are capable of performing many different tasks because they use information, communication, and networking. And let us briefly look at the history of the IoT. In 1969, the internet first emerged, and 1982, the TCP/IP protocol started appearing in internet. 1990, actually, the first ever device that was not a computer was connected to the internet. So that was actually a bread toaster, which was not a computer connected. So that is the beginning of IoT, for example. And in 1999, IoT got its name. In 2005, it started getting global attention. And in 2008, actually, we started this IPSO Alliance. 2011, IPv6 launches. And we know that IPv6 made a remarkable change because IPv6 has a 16-bit data field, address field, for example. So you can have unique addresses to trillions of devices. So that actually changed, facilitated an Internet of Things. And in 2013, Google came into play, 2014, Apple, so today we are. So if you look at the IoT framework, so basically we have sensors, actuators with their own IP address that can connect to the internet. So these are the things. And these need to be connected using a local network that could be wired, wireless, personal area network, local area network, controller area network, etc. And these collect the data, is transmitted to a cloud. Data either sent to or received from the cloud using machine activation, workflow, analytics, etc. In the cloud, data actually can be analyzed and intelligent decisions can be made. And then using these decisions, we control connected consumer electronic devices that could be a simple printer or a computer, or it could be actually something more complex like an autonomous vehicle. So few applications of this Internet of Things. Basically, it can be used in agriculture, building management, energy, embedded systems, everyday life, machine-to-machine wireless sensor networks, security and surveillance, smart cities, vehicles, assets, pet monitoring and controlling, telemedicine and healthcare. Especially in this COVID era, actually telemedicine and remote healthcare has taken a lot of attention, because nowadays a lot of companies are actually developing various devices to remotely monitor these COVID-19 patients' health conditions and actually track their movement and track the proximity between two COVID patients. For example, Apple and Google together, they have developed an app that can warn you if there is another COVID patient is in the close proximity. And I think there is an app in India also that is basically tracking the COVID patients. So that has become very important. And of course, when we move on to Industry 4.0, basically that is where all these information, communications and networking come into play to produce something very remarkable, very useful, and that will take our world to the next level. For example, if you take Industry 1.0, it was simply mechanizations and introduction of steam and water power. Industry 2.0 was mass production, assembly lines, electrical power. Industry 3.0 was automated production to some extent. So the involvement of computers and IT systems and robotics into production, but it was not a complete solution. Whereas the upcoming Industry 4.0 is the complete smart factory, autonomous systems and Internet of Things and machine learning, where actually various parts of this the industry will learn a number of interrelated things, and they, to some extent, they will make their own decisions to actually produce things in a much more efficient and much more cost-effective way. So when I talk about IoT, some people ask, what is the difference between IoT and WSN, wireless sensor networks? So we all are very familiar, the electrical engineers, especially about WSN, wireless sensor networks. Wireless sensor network is like the eye and ears of IoT. So basically, wireless sensor network, you have lots of low power sensors that collect data and they transmit. So basically, WSN collects data, but IoT provides a complete solution. IoT in a broad sense is like the brain. So actually, it collects the data, it analyzes the data, and it makes decisions, and especially implement the decisions using various actuators and controllers. So I'm actually a communication guy. I come from the communication background. I'm more interested in communication. So when we look at the communication networks, various communication networks, we have to look, there are three trade-offs between the communication networks. One is the speed. What is the bit rate you want to use? The second one is the range, how far you want to communicate. The third factor is actually the energy, how much energy you are willing to use. So for example, if you look at Wi-Fi, the most widely used wireless local area network technology, IEEE 802.11 based technologies, Wi-Fi, they can go up to 1 gigabit per second or even more nowadays. However, their range is not that high. They can only go up to a maximum of 1 kilometer in the best case, and their energy usage is very high. On the other hand, if a lot of IoT devices, they don't need that high bit rate. Their bit rates are typically smaller, so they can actually, but their ranges need to be better. So for example, if you look at the Sigfox or LoRaWAN, these are the recent popular IoT-based data communication standards. Data communication standards, and these need to actually transmit up to even, say, more than 10 kilometers, sometimes even all the way up to 100 kilometers. But the data rates are very, very small, up to 10 bits per second or 20 bits per second. Because sometimes you only need very low data rate, but you may need a longer range. And of course, the energy also is a major concern with wireless sensor networks and IoT, because we don't want the nodes to die because of the battery drainage. So this is a typical example what IoT can do. So we all have some electrical engineering background. We know the grid is smart now, because lots of people want to generate their own power. We have lots of microgrid generation. For example, we have solar panels, we have wind farms that generate electricity in a small scale. So the power grid that used to be a unidirectional network has become a bidirectional network these days, because the energy is flowing in both directions. People are generating energy and also they are getting energy from the grid. So everything needs to be redesigned, from the fault detection, protection schemes, all the way to power load prediction and planning processes. So what happens, IoT plays a very important role in smart grid. Basically, it can monitor the energy usage and energy production levels of all these small micro generators, and the data can be collected and analyzed so that actually a load prediction can be effectively done in order to optimize the power generation and minimize the outage probability. Also, in the power grid, there are lots of other things. People nowadays want to use how much energy they are using, and during what time of the day they want to use the energy effectively. So, and the data from these smart meters are transmitted automatically to a central server, forming an IoT system. So there are lots of other applications of the smart grid. For example, electric vehicle. Electric vehicle is a very interesting addition to the power grid, because what happens, an electric car consumes significant amount of power. It takes lots of energy from the grid. What happens, but it uses that energy off the grid, because you charge the electric car from the grid and then use the power off the grid. So what happens, a lot of power grid operators, utility operators, as well as car owners, as well as car manufacturers, want to learn how this energy being used, and also want to come up with accurate models to predict how much energy the electric cars will need. So there are lots of IoT-based systems that actually track and monitor the amount of energy electric cars are using off the grid. Even I was involved in one of these projects where we actually developed a system to monitor the power usage of electric cars. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Yes, your PPT screen got turned off. Can you please share it again?
Monish, we couldn't hear Monish.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, it's visible now, sir.
Okay. Okay. So if this talk is not complete unless I talk about 5G wireless networks, because everybody is eagerly expecting the deployment of 5G wireless networks. We know 5G will play a major role, and that will transform the way we live. What are the main aspects of 5G? 5G is not basically going to be a completely new standard, because what they are planning to do in 5G is basically incorporating various existing and futuristic network technologies. For example, 5G will incorporate Wi-Fi networks. So if you have 802.11 based Wi-Fi network, that can become part of the 5G wireless networks. And also 5G is promising to provide very high bit rates, up to 10 gigabit or even more over the air interface. So this much high bit rate will come only when they incorporate multitude of technologies. For example, the spectrum allocation to 5G can go up to 60 gigahertz. So we know in the millimeter wave band, there is huge bandwidth available. So 5G is planning to use this bandwidth, and also even they are considering novel unique technologies such as visible light communications, VLC. VLC is basically using light waves to transmit data. Li-Fi is a very popular standard that uses visible light technology. Because we know a lot of modern lighting systems are LED based these days. So actually LEDs can be used to provide lighting as well as communication. Because LEDs can be switched at high rate without without a human without being visible to human eyes. So visible light communication is an emerging area. Another area is cognitive radio networks. Cognitive radio networks, they don't have a set of carrier frequencies. Actually, in a cognitive radio system, will sense its environment and decide its carrier frequency based on the environment, so that it will not interfere harmfully with existing wireless networks. So it is a very smart network that works like the human brain. So a cognitive radio technology will be part of 5G network, and also it will support device-to-device communication, various relaying technologies, and in the network layer it will also support network functional virtualization, NFV, and software-defined network architecture, SDN, etc., etc. So they are trying to incorporate most of the modern technologies into 5G so that the user will get a truly anytime, anywhere connection with very high reliability. Another biggest advantage of 5G network is the network slicing, because current networks don't differentiate the type of data we transmit. For them, actually data is data, whether it's coming from a cell phone or it's coming from some other device. But 5G networks, we have the ability to treat data separately, so that we call that the network slicing. For example, the data could be coming from mobile broadband sources such as smartphones, and that will transmit video related things. So that data will be treated accordingly so that you get the correct quality of service required for mobile broadband communication and video communication. And the data could also be coming from large number of IoT nodes that will have a different quality of service requirement. And their data rates are typically small, but the number of nodes will be huge. So this data needs to be treated differently. And the data could actually be coming from mission critical devices such as an autonomous vehicle. For example, autonomous vehicle support is a big part of 5G wireless networks. Because autonomous networks supposed to communicate with very short delay and sensing their environment and communicating with other autonomous vehicles and other pedestrians with nanosecond delay. So this kind of mission critical, ultra high reliable, ultra low latency requirement data need to be treated separately. And there could be other slices too. So in 5G networks, they are actually having provisions to treat the different priority data differently. That is one of the major advantages of 5G. Finally, security in communication. Actually, we all know the more automatic we get, the more machine-based solutions we deploy, the higher the risk of having security attacks, and that could cause not only our privacy violation, but also it could cause even some other major issues such as network-wide attacks and things like that. So security is a major problem when we are moving on with information and communication technology. And in this slide, actually, I have shown some of the security and privacy crimes that have been committed in the world. And as usual, United States is the #1 country where the cybercrime is happening about 23%. And they are estimating about $6 trillion dollars will be cost annually by 2021 due to these cyber crimes. And cyber security and cyber privacy issues are major things, and also I hope that our researchers will focus in that direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Your talk was really informative and helpful for us. Now I welcome Mrs. Hema ma'am to introduce our guest of honor, Dr. Thamare Selvi.
Evening all. On behalf of Department of Information Technology, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest of honor, Dr. Thamare Selvi Somasundaram, who is currently working as a Vice Chancellor, Tiruvallur University, Vellore. She completed his PhD in Manoormani Sundarnar University, and she holds various postings in academic and administrative, like Director and Head in CTDT, Anna University, Professor and Dean in MIT campus, Professor and Head in MIT campus in the Department of Computer Technology, Professor and Head in Department of Information Technology, MIT campus. She holds as a Professor and Head in Manoormani Sundarnar University. She holds posting as a System Manager and Leader in Manoormani Sundarnar University. An administrative post like Head of the Institution in MIT, the Head of the Divisions in Manoormani Sundarnar University, Head of the Department in MIT, Government College of Engineering, Tirunelveli, and Manoormani Sundarnar University. She holds the post of Head of the Centers in CTDT, and she formulated many MOUs for academic collaborations in foreign countries like USA, Malaysia, New Zealand, Italy, and she has a professional lifetime memberships in ACM, CSI, IST, IE, and she has various international academic exposure in international countries like China, Australia, US, Canada, Thailand, United Kingdom, and Dubai, and many more countries. And she conducted many events in research and academic events at international levels, and she introduced a new course in MIT in PG courses like grid computing and cloud computing. She participated in academic and professional expertise areas, and she gave 21 invite talks and keynote address for international conference and 28 plenary lectures and workshops in national conference. And she had many PhD level examinations and in national and international level, and she had filed 9 patents, and she had many awards like Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award, APJ Abdul Kalam Seva Ratna Award, Best Technology Transfer Award, Women Engineer Award, Active Engineer Awards, and she has more publication, international and national conference publications, and many more achievements. Ma'am's achievements is endless, and it's my pleasure and honor to invite our guest of honor, Dr. Thamare Selvi Somasundaram, to give away the inaugural address. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for introducing me. See, today, first of all, I wish to welcome you all for this international conference, and also I wish to convey my congratulations to the organizers, especially Dr. Kanaga Subaraja, the HOD Dr. Shanti, the principal of Eastern Engineering College, and all other members who have taken much pain in organizing this international conference. Today, the technology is very much helpful to conduct such events, and the people are very much benefited by sitting at home and all. So in a way, it is a good thing due to COVID-19 situation. And my brief layout of the presentation is like this. I wish to introduce Industry 5.0, Education 5.0, and Society 5.0 because it is the need of the hour, and I wish to just connect all these three. That's what I want to focus in this presentation. Actually, I know it is the combination of faculty members, researchers, and students. So I have taken only the fundamental concepts, and I have tried my level best to explain everything in a very, very simple manner. So the motivation for this particular keynote talk is to prepare the students in the higher education system and the youth of our nation for gaining leadership in global knowledge economy. So that is the main motivation. And see, I told you three terminologies: Industry 5.0, Education 5.0, Society 5.0. Already Dr. Xavier Fernando has touched upon Industry 4.0 also. He explained about 5G, latest networks, IoT, and security aspects. He has touched upon so many recent concepts. Now I am going to correlate all those things, because why all these things are required? We have to achieve digital transformation as well as the societal transformation. Both are required. For that purpose only I am trying to link all these three. See, today we are saying that there is an exponential growth of technology. So this exponential growth of technology will disrupt your industry and change of your life. Our entire lifestyle has to be changed. See, if you don't watch the news, you are uninformed, and if you watch the news, you are misinformed. So you may be knowing what to do now, whether to watch the news or not to watch the news. So this is the condition today. The technological growth, the exponential growth has made lot of impacts in our day-to-day activities, as well as everything is brought to the social networks, and within a second we are able to see all the things happening throughout the globe. You should know what is the meaning of industrialization. Actually, it is a process by which economy is transformed from primary agriculture to one of goods. So you are having an economic transformation from the primary agriculture to the one where we are manufacturing the goods. There are a lot of advantages by having the industrialization, but at the same time, how far we should be very much careful. I am talking about those things also in the subsequent slides. First, it is giving an efficient division of labor. The automation is, the industrialization is helping us for efficient division of labor. Then we are having the economic growth, drastic growth also. Then it is possible to solve complex problems using the advanced technology. Perhaps it is as opposed to the dependency on conditions outside human control also. It is a threat. That's why I have given it in brackets. Now when you consider the phases of industrialization, the first generation, Industry 1.0, started in 1780. So just we have made use of the machines using water and steam as the power for the purpose of this industrialization. That is called as Industry 1.0. Steam engine was used. Then in 1900, electricity was the major input used for Industry 2.0. We were interested in mass production and assembly lines. So that is called as Industry 2.0. Then in 1970, Industry 3.0 was evolved. So we used the electronic automation. Then in 2000, that is we are using Industry 4.0, where Internet of Things, they are used for the purpose of automation and other production, and we just say that it is a cyber physical systems. Now we are talking about Industry 5.0, where it is mainly meant for personalization and automation in the manufacturing sector. So it is about automation concept. So if you consider the Industry 5.0 to evolve for the second revolution, that is second industry, that is Industry 2.0, reached 3.0, and within 20 years we have reached 0 also. So you can see the span of that years in between each revolution. It is gradually decreasing. See, 120 to 270, 70 to 30, 30 to 20 now. So industry 6.0 may be evolved in a short span of time. And if you consider this industrialization, automatically we should know what are the technological trends useful for it. We are having the hyper automation where we are using artificial intelligence and machine learning, multiple experience by having virtual, that is you are having the virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, then democratization. We are trying to build the automation of the software development also, so that the concepts are very much important. We need not focus much on programming. Then human augmentation, you can implant the chips so that it is possible to have the cyber physical system integrated. Then transparency and traceability, the truth or the trust is the important thing in this case. Then empowered edge, we call it as edge computing. It is the extension of the cloud computing, so that in the edge itself we are performing the computation. All the IoT devices are connected, so we have got the actual computation in the edge itself. Then distributed cloud, from the centralized cloud now we are going for distributed cloud. And also we are talking about autonomous things. Drones are very, very popular nowadays, and in each and every application we are making use of these autonomous things. Then practical blockchain. This is the digital ledger, which was first useful only for financial sector. Now it is used in the health sector, healthcare systems, and in so many other places it is being used. Then AI security, that is when you consider the security, because of the artificial intelligence being introduced in so many applications, the security is required for artificial intelligence also, and we are trying to introduce intelligence in the security features also. So these are the top technological trends which are enabling the industry 5.0 also. So the technology enablers for this industry 5.0 are the industrial blockchain, drones, that autonomous system, exoskeletons, that is the dresses which are comfortable for performing our work and all. Then additive technology, that is 3D and 4D printing, that is called as additive technology. Then 5G and beyond. 5G already the previous speaker has touched upon. Then mixed reality, that is virtual reality, augmented reality, and both are combined together, that is mixed reality. So these are the top technology enablers to have the industry 5.0 happen. Now that is 3D printing. Actually we are able to print the organ. See here, the heart can be printed. Then it is possible to print any model, Eiffel Tower or any other model, the Taj Mahal, you can print anything directly. Similarly, it is possible to prepare the human beings model also. Then it is also another model. Whatever items you are using as the regular thing, that can also be printed. Instead of simply removing from a single element or the metal form, we are actually adding the material and we are forming the things. That's why it is called as 3D printing. Printing. We are having the 3 dimensions, and by using the printer and by having the computer aided design, the entire design is given and the printer is giving you the 3D object. Now people are talking about 4D printing also. So this is one example of 3D printer. That is in the right side, you are having the material which is used for just manufacturing the product. So this is the way we are having it, because it is cheaply available. Even within 10,000, 20,000 or 30,000 also you can have a small 3D printers available right now. Now 4D printing. See, when you consider the 4th dimension, it is about time. In the 3 dimension, you are having X, Y, Z. Whereas in the 4th dimension, you are having the preliminary shape, and that is converted into a required shape by the addition of heat or water or some other form of some energy. So we are adding the 4th dimension, this time, and the change is taking place with the support of some form of energy. So this is an example of 4D printing. To understand the 4D printing, I can just tell you a simple example to understand the concept. See, you would have made puri for your eating, right? See, how is it available before it is put inside the hot oil? See, it is very flat, but once if it is put into that oil, hot oil, it is made like a very, very spherical shape also. So the shape is totally changed by the heat you are having in that oil. So the flat part is made as this one. So time is the thing and energy is the supply of those things. And another good example is baby growing in the womb of the mother. That is also a very good example of 4D printing. After 9 months, the complete baby is actually generated. So these are all the examples of 4D printing to understand how can we generate the things. And I have told about the industrialization. See, we are talking about industry 5.0, 4.0, etc. But what are the challenges or what are the issues? What are the problems we are facing out of all those things? See, by having the advancement in the technologies, only the developed countries are making use of them and they are very much benefited. See, there is a non-uniform consumption of various items. In the developed countries, the consumption will be more than 90%, whereas the remaining place will be sharing only the 10%. So the consumption of energy, consumption of products, consumption of whatever it may be, it is not uniformly distributed. The technology is helping the advanced and developed countries to have more and more consumption. So this is a non-uniform distribution of the items. It is a very big challenge or the problem we are facing. Then environment and biodiversity. Actually, we have made the environment totally polluted. See, when you consider the biodiversity and all, we are talking about so many animals or other things which are not available right now. The house sparrow, Sittukuruvi, it is not at all available due to the mobile towers and all. Similarly, we had one animal called Yali. It was available before 60 million years and all. We can see it only in the temples. Like that, you can see the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs, they are also not available right now. See, these are the different species which had been destroyed or they have become extinct due to some climatic change or due to some other reasons happened in the natural calamity. So these are the various things. Why I am telling all those things? Because of the technology, we should not affect the environment. Each and every species is required for the human survival. Survival of the fittest. See, some of the species are destroyed. We are using pesticides. We are using chemicals. So because of that, the contamination of water, the contamination of soil, everything happens. See, we have increased the population of the world. So because of that, we have to improve the production rate and all. So we are going for the hybrid variety. We are going for the biodiversity. We are making use of so many things. See, what is the impact of all those things? It pollutes the environment. It totally changes the behavior. So like that, lot of impact in the environment. That is one of the challenging problems we are facing due to the technological advancement. Then technology, we are talking about nanotechnology. We are talking about nano-robo. The robo, once you are using, it does not know which is the healthy cell, which is the actual unhealthy shell. So in that case, that may not be able to differentiate and it may have the serious consequences. So some of the technologies should be used very much carefully. Then disease. Today we are talking about the pandemic situation due to COVID-19. So the different viruses are being generated. We don't know how it was possible. So these are all the things. See, even though we have got all those technologies developed, we are not in a position to find out the solution for it. So it is very important to see the actual impact which is going beyond the control of the human beings. That's what I am alerting. Then global ethics. We say that the global warming is taking place and we are talking about so many things. We are deforesting. So because of that, global warming is there. So we know all those things. See, these environmental change will have the impact within a very short span of time. So we should leave the nature unaffected for the next generation. That's what I want to inform. I am not against the technology. but at the same time we should see the impact and we should have all sorts of these things and we should proceed. And when you consider the man-machine, today man is becoming machine and machine is becoming man. Technology is becoming organic and nature is becoming technology. So you will understand. See, we don't remember our own phone numbers. If you are having 2-3 numbers, you will be remembering any 1 or 2 only. So everything is now within the mobile. So man is becoming machine. See, you have to set the alarm for taking your medicine. You have to set the alarm for your discussion, your meeting. So we make our memory power decreasing. So that's what I want to mention here. Next, I am talking about education 5.0. See, teaching by having the syllabus framed by teacher 1.0 and research-based education 2.0, community-based services that is 3.0, and innovation, creativity, all those things are talking about in that education 4.0 and 5.0. Education 5.0 is supporting industry 5.0. How are we able to support the industry 5.0? That is called as education 5.0. See, I want to ask you one question. Are we ready for adapting education 5.0? Because it is very important to consider this, because most of us are from the academic institution. Just it is a brainstorming thing I can tell. See, when you consider our educational system and you compare the education system in the other countries, why do our students want to go abroad for higher studies? Because of the infrastructure available, because of the research environment they are having. When you compare the educational system in our country and in other advanced countries, as far as teaching is concerned, there is no much difference. Whatever you are having the teaching here, the similar thing is taking place there. The main difference I heard from my students who are in abroad is the evaluation method. How do they evaluate? There is no question of simply putting pass mark for everybody. They are really testing the students continuously, and if they deserve to get pass mark, then only they will be able to get the pass mark. There is no shortcut method for this passing or gaining knowledge. The degree has to be earned by sincere hard work and understanding the subjects and application of the concepts. That's the main difference. So we should also follow that concept. And why this education 5.0? See, it is possible to have the personalization. It is possible to access from anywhere, anytime. There is a flexible delivery, flipped classroom and all we are telling. And peer groups, mentors can easily coordinate, and you can have the why, where, not, that is then what, how, all those things can be discussed. Practical applications can be made easily, and you can have the students' ownership. You can have the evaluation and not examination. And you can have the modular and projects also. All those things are possible in case of education 5.0. The drivers of education 5.0, when you consider, see the future skills, what is needed for industry 5.0? Digital networks and devices are plenty. IoT is there. Talent investment is required. We are expecting 100 years lifespan. Then you are having the personal data and shared content and resources. You are having the millennial mindset, the next new generation's mindset for going for education 5.0. Collaboration platforms are available. Then you are having the society being progressed. So these are the various drivers which are making us to go for education 5.0. You are having so many modularized and multimodal learning, that is Coursera, edX, Udemy, like that. You are having so many Moodle courses, online courses, everything is video courses, everything is available online. So you are having the access to the experts throughout the globe. Some thoughts about lecturing. College is a place where a professor's lecture notes go straight to the students. Lecture notes without passing through the brains of either. This may also happen sometimes. And you can read this. Some people talk in their sleep. Lecturers talk while other people sleep. This is also some of the funny quotes. In spite of all the criticism, the lecture remains the most common pedagogical approach in higher education. It is an excellent tool for reaching the novice learners and early stage college students also. Now, if you consider this one, see, this is called as Sedubandha Sarvangasana. It is a very, very tough exercise, and you should be very much careful to keep the posture of the head, otherwise your neck will be affected. So it requires very good practice for doing this particular asana. Now you see this. Are you able to see the relation between these two? Here also the same Sedubandha Sarvangasana. See, why I have given this particular diagram is, you should have the context sensitive education. Context sensitive, what do you mean by context sensitive? See, I have given two patterns. See here, what is it? Whether it is B or 13. When you read A, then it is interpreted as B by the human being. When you read 12, 13, 14, it is interpreted as 13. The same pattern, same image is interpreted in this context differently, in this context differently. Similarly, if you consider this image, what is it? Some of you may think that it is the flower vase. Some of you may think that it is two faces. So, it is based on the context you are interpreting. So, the teacher may teach in a particular context, the student may interpret in a different context. So, it is very important to be very much clear about the context in which teaching the subject. So, Education 5.0 is very much related to that. In the context of Industry 5.0, we should teach them. When you consider the education institution, teaching is not optional for teachers, except to help learners become the producer of knowledge. Learning is not optional for learners. You have agreed to learn with an intention of making your career. And what are the various skills required in the 21st century? See, foundation literacies, competencies, character qualities. See, when you consider all those things, they are telling about literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT, financial literacy, cultural and civic literacy. These are all foundational literacies we have to learn. Then competencies, critical thinking and problem solving, creativity, communication, collaboration. Then character qualities, curiosity, initiative, persistence, adaptability, leadership, social and cultural awareness. In total, you should have the lifelong learning also. That is needed. And see, in 2020, it is given like this: complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, cognitive flexibility. These are all the skills required for today's context. Now I am talking about Society 5.0, third one. First we discussed about Industry 5.0, then Education 5.0. Now I am talking about Society 5.0. What is it? We started with the hunting society. So it is a gathering society, right? It is having its own sustainability. Then agricultural society, that is inclusiveness. It was having the inclusiveness. Then industrial society, it was made efficient so that economy was grown. Then information society, it is the power of intellect. Now Society 5.0, this is the 5th generation. Here we are using the science, technology and innovation. Full use of STI, people as the core, participation by everyone. You are having the shared values for sustainability, inclusiveness, efficiency and power of intellect. All the 4 previous generations advantages are covered in this one. So you should understand the smart society or society 5.0. So previously we had the Stone Age, agriculture age, cultivation was the main thing, industrial age, information age, production was concentrated. Now smart society, that is called the society 5.0. This is the future. We are interested in innovation and collaboration. So we have got the light industries in the first industrial revolution, heavy industry in the second revolution, then third industrial revolution is automation and information, and digital transformation is taking place where we are using artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, blockchain, etc., etc. So society 5.0 is the first half of the 21st century. It is called a super smart society. So this you have to understand first of all. And there is a difference between society 4.0 and 5.0. Here the value is created, problem solving and value creation, diversity. So diverse abilities are appreciated, decentralization, resilience, sustainability and environmental harmony. So these are the various points we have to consider in society 5.0. When you consider the benefits of education 5.0, you are having the brain gain instead of brain drain, because you can access from anywhere. So you can contribute from your own place. It is a brain gain only. And you can eliminate the rural-urban divide. Gross enrollment ratio can be increased, reachable to all. The standard will be improved because you can have the global standard. Skill development is possible because everybody is accessible for the global talents. Employability is easier and helpful for all the stakeholders. Students, parents, teachers, society, employers, everybody is benefited. Then advantages: industry on campus, learn from home, personalized learning, seamless learning, lifelong learning, professors on demand, jobs on demand, skills on demand, entrepreneurs on demand, services on demand. Everything can be made on demand. So why I want to say these three are to be integrated? Actually, Education 5.0 enables digital transformation by catering to the need of Industry 5.0, and Society 5.0 supports to have societal transformation. Hence, revolution in higher education system brings societal transformation. Now, STI for SDG, Science, Technology and Innovation. This is for Sustainable Development Goals. See, based on Society 5.0, the United Nations have developed the Sustainable Development Goals because the industrial growth like Industry 5.0 has got lot of problems to be faced by the community. So what are the Sustainable Development Goals we have to consider whenever we adapt the Industry 5.0 or Education 5.0 by Society 5.0? So for that, United Nations have given all the 17 goals. No poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education. See, like that you are having 17 goals. So our sustainable development goals are based on our research, based on our Industry 5.0, based on our Education 5.0. So this is the goal. Whatever research you want to focus, whatever thing you want to do as your business or your opportunity for career development, you focus on these global sustainable development goals. Then definitely there is a market, because we are trying to have the complete climate to be maintained, environment to be maintained. We are giving equality to everyone, partnership is encouraged. So it gives the total sustainable development goals for the entire earth. And they have got these 5 elements are benefited by the sustainable development goals: people, prosperity, peace, partnership and planet. You can see it in the SDG website, the same thing I have taken. And also now you should know, you have to bridge the generation gaps. Remember the golden rule: treat others as you would like to be treated. Change it to the platinum rule: treat others as they would like to be treated. So this is the platinum rule which we have to remember. And the future, when you consider, in 1989, people told that future is multimedia. 99, future is web. 2009, future is smart mobile. 2014, future is smart data. Now, what is the future? Smart education for smart society. This is the future today. So everybody has to realize the smart education is mandatory to support the smart society. So smart means specific. S stands for specific, not general. M measurable. A attainable. R relevance. And T timely. So you should know change is the only constant. Matram onre maaradadu. So the world is changing, technology is changing, education is changing, society is changing. It is always changing. Change is the only constant thing which you have to realize. And based on these things, Industry 5.0, Education 5.0 and Society 5.0, you should realize one thing. Nature is life. Life is to live joyfully by following moral and ethics. This is the first rule you should remember. Nature is life. Second one is nature is love. Selfless attitude of universe. See, the nature is providing you the food. All sorts of our things are only provided by the nature. So it is not expecting anything from us. That's why I say that it is a selfless attitude of the universe. The earth, the nature, the world is giving you all your requirements. So we should carefully protect it. The nature should be protected. You should not destroy the environment. You should not pollute the environment. You should not spoil the nature. Then if we do like that, because of our selfishness, the total thing will be collapsed. The nature is light. It gives the guidance to reach the wisdom. So follow the law of nature and enjoy the bliss of this nature. That's what I want to say. So to conclude, we should have the digital transformation. In turn, it will be having the societal transformation. So we should achieve the sustainable development goals by using science, technology and innovation in a very, very careful manner. So with this, I conclude my talk. You can just read this. All too often we are giving young people cut flowers, then we should be teaching them to grow their own plants. So we should always teach our next generation to grow their own plants instead of giving the ready-made flowers. That is very important. And if you fail, never give up, because fail means first attempt in learning. End is not the end. In fact, end means effort never dies. If you get no as an answer, remember no means next opportunity. So let us be positive and let us have the positive attitude to protect the nature so that we will be able to enjoy this nature. So with this, I conclude my talk. If there is any suggestion and clarifications, you can send the message through the chat box. The organizers can send it and I can also give the reply offline. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Your presentation was really thoughtful and like a futuristic one. So I hope that brings us to the end of the session. Before, just a second, I'll see if there are any questions for you.
Yeah, if there is any question, they can ask.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. I'll give it some time. See. Meanwhile, I would like to thank my HOD and the Department of IT to organizing a conference and also giving me the opportunity to be the host here. And now I welcome Mr. V. Balaji to present the vote of thanks.
A very good evening to all. A new knowledge is the most valuable commodity on earth. It grows exponentially. The more we know, the greater our ability to learn and the faster we expand our knowledge base. Honorable dignitaries, most valued guests and participants, on behalf of Department of Information Technology, it gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this International E-Conference on Information Communication and Networking 2020. We'd like to thank our respected chairman, co-chairman for being our backbone in our all endeavors and inspiring us. We want to thank our gratitude to Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Xavier Fernando, Professor and Director, Ryzen Communication Lab, Canada, who have spared his precious time for us and graced this occasion with his presence. We extend our sincere thanks to Honorable Guest of Honor, Dr. Thamarachelvi Somasundaram, Vice Chancellor, Thiruvallur University, Vellore, who honored this conference with their inspirational thoughts. I thank our respected Director, Dr. Subbiah Bharati, for his active guidance in organizing this conference. Then I thank our respected Principal R.S. Kumar and Vice Principal Academics and Vice Principal Admin for his support and motivation in organizing this conference. Next, I would like to thank all the HODs, Deans and IQAC Coordinator for their presence and support. A warm welcome to our beloved HOD IT and Convener Dr. N. Anandi and Co-Convener Dr. S. Kanagasubraja for your vision and commitments to work and its execution, which help us to excel in all endeavors. I wholeheartedly thank all the participants for this conference. Behind every successful program lies the manifold attempts of our committed faculty. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the immense contribution of our dedicated faculty. Once again, I thank all and we look forward to seeing in future also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier sir. Thank you, Thamarachelvi ma'am. Your speech was very informative and thought-provoking. Thank you so much for your time. And I thank all our administrators for sparing your time with us. Thank you so much. And dear participants, let's meet tomorrow. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Very nice, and thank you, guests. It's amazing to hear them speak on the latest technology. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for inviting me.
Ma'am, we couldn't hear, ma'am. Thamarachelvi ma'am, we couldn't hear.
Yeah, sorry, I have muted it. Now, that is Professor Xavier Fernando's information was very much useful because he was also talking about the latest technology. Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.
Actually, Madam, you very nicely connected science and technology with philosophy and inspiration. It's one of the really good talks I heard. It's very nice actually. And I don't know if you remember, we met in MIT campus, Anna University before.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Yes, ma'am. We also did a
Yeah.
session from you, ma'am. We will invite you, ma'am. Please. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.